Ohtani was untouchable, but nobody's talking about the real story behind this win. Picture this. A franchise built to win championships, sitting in second place, bleeding losses like a team that forgot how to score. 4 straight defeats. 9 losses in 13 games. An offense that had gone so cold, so completely silent, that the most expensive roster in baseball history was averaging fewer than 3 runs a game. And the man they paid $700 million to fix exactly this kind of problem. He couldn't buy a hit. That's where the Los Angeles Dodgers were heading into May 13, 2025. That's the pressure cooker that Shohei Ohtani walked into when he climbed the mound at Dodger Stadium to face the San Francisco Giants. No bat in his hand that night, no protection in the lineup, just a baseball and 7 innings of silence that stopped a franchise from falling off a cliff. Before we break this down completely, if you're watching this on Hoop Action TV and you haven't subscribed yet, we are closing in on 1,500 subscribers and we need you there. Hit subscribe, drop a like, leave a comment, and share this video with someone who loves real sports breakdowns. We are building something here and you're part of it. Now let's get into the real story. Because here's what's genuinely remarkable about what happened on May 13th. It wasn't just a dominant pitching performance. It was a performance that came wrapped in layers of pressure, context, and an ongoing question that nobody in baseball has fully answered yet. What does Shohei Ohtani actually look like when everything is going wrong around him? The answer apparently is a 0.82 era. To understand why Wednesday night mattered so much, you need to understand how badly the Dodgers needed it. This was not a team stumbling through a minor rough patch. The Dodgers had opened the season 15-4, one of the hottest starts in the National League, and then with terrifying speed they started falling apart. By the time May 13th arrived, they had gone 9-13 since that blazing start. They had scored 3 runs or fewer in 10 of their last 13 games. And for the 9th time in 12 games, they had managed 3 runs or fewer on the night. That's not a slump, that's a structural problem. And sitting at the very center of that problem was Shohei Ohtani, not the pitcher but the hitter. The man who had signed the richest contract in professional sports history to be the centerpiece of the Dodgers' offense had entered a slump that was, by his own standards, genuinely alarming. Ohtani was slashing .233363404, a significant drop from his career line of .280374576. For context, his career slugging percentage of .576 represents one of the most explosive offensive profiles in modern baseball history. What he was putting up in early May 2025 wasn't even close to that. This was Ohtani's worst offensive stretch since joining the Dodgers. So manager Dave Roberts made a decision that was both practical and bold. For the 4th time in 7 starts, Ohtani would pitch without appearing in the batting lineup. He would not take a single at bat. His job that evening was one thing and one thing only: go out there and shut the Giants down. And that, in a very specific and fascinating way, is exactly what happened. When Shohei Ohtani takes the mound, he operates with a 3-pitch arsenal that is genuinely difficult to explain to anyone who hasn't watched it up close. A mid-90s to 100 mph fastball that carries late and rises through the zone. A splitter that looks like a strike until it disappears into the dirt. And a sweeper, a sharp breaking slider that moves laterally with enough movement to make right-handed hitters swing at pitches 6 inches off the plate. On May 13th, all 3 pitches were working. The Giants came into this game knowing exactly what was at stake. They were facing a pitcher who had already led the National League in ERA after each of his first 7 starts and who had led the majors in ERA after 5 of those 7, including each of the last 3 consecutively. You don't sneak up on Shohei Ohtani. You know what's coming. You just can't do anything about it. The sequence that defined the night came in the middle innings, a Devers Eldridge Adams strikeout sequence that functioned almost like a clinic. 3 consecutive hitters, 3 completely different approaches at the plate, 3 completely different pitch selections from Ohtani, 3 punch-outs. The Giants' best bats in the middle of the order gone back to back to back while Ohtani barely broke a sweat. That's the kind of sequence that tells you a pitcher isn't just executing his game plan, he's dictating terms. Ohtani still pumping 98 to 100 miles per hour in the 6th and 7th innings, with the same sharp splitter and the same lateral break on the sweeper that he had shown in the first. That stamina, that ability to maintain velocity and command deep into a game, is one of the things that separates him from almost every other pitcher on the planet. But the performance wasn't entirely clean, and the moment that came closest to unraveling everything was actually one of the most revealing of the entire night. In the 7th inning, with 1 out already recorded, Ohtani gave up back-to-back hits to Willie Adams and Matt Chapman. The Giants had runners on first and second. The shutout was suddenly in genuine danger. Then Drew Gilbert hammered a ball to center field at 100.4 mph off the bat, a reading that, by exit velocity alone, should have been at minimum an RBI single, possibly more. Andy Pages tracked it, got under it at the warning track, made the catch, then doubled off Adams to end the inning. The shutout survived. The masterpiece was intact. And Ohtani, when asked about it afterward, gave exactly the kind of answer that tells you something real about how he processes pressure. There's some luck involved as well. That's it. 7 innings, 0 earned runs, 4 hits allowed, 8 strikeouts, 105 pitches thrown, and his first instinct was to acknowledge the role that fortune played. That's not false modesty. That's the kind of self-awareness that comes from genuinely understanding baseball at a very high level. 7 innings. 0 earned runs, 4 hits, 8 strikeouts, 105 pitches. That was the final line, and it was, in context, the most important pitching performance the Dodgers had produced all season. There's also something worth noting about what this performance represented structurally. Ohtani tossed 7 innings in back-to-back outings, and he had pitched at least 6 innings in all 7 of his starts in 2025. That represents the longest such streak in a single season in his entire MLB career. Not his career with the Dodgers. His entire career. 7 consecutive starts with at least 6 innings pitched. For a player who missed 2 full seasons to Tommy John surgery and subsequent recovery, that kind of consecutive durability is not a minor footnote. It's a statement. One of the persistent frustrations of Ohtani's starts in 2025 had been the lack of offensive support. The Dodgers were averaging just 2.9 runs per game in his starts heading into May 13th. A pitcher putting up a sub-1 ERA was routinely being handed 2-run cushions and asked to make them hold up for 9 innings. On this particular Wednesday, the offense remembered what it was supposed to do. In the 3rd inning, the Dodgers got back-to-back home runs from Santiago Espinal and Mookie Betts. 2 swings, 2 runs over the fence. Just like that, Ohtani had a 2-0 lead and a runway to work with. The Dodgers then added 2 more runs in the 4th inning using small ball, advancing runners, situational hitting, the kind of grinding approach that their lineup had been incapable of executing in the 10 previous games where they'd been held to 3 runs or fewer. The final score was Dodgers 4, Giants 0. The 4-0 lead changed the texture of what Ohtani was able to do on the mound. When a pitcher is working with a thin margin, they are forced to be careful, to nibble at the corners, to pitch around danger, to accept walks in service of protecting a 1-run game. With a 4-run cushion, Ohtani could be aggressive. He could attack the zone. He could dare hitters to put the ball in play because he trusted his defense behind him. That combination, early run support, aggressive zone attack, and the back-end hold by the bullpen produced a clean, complete 4-0 victory that snapped the 4-game losing streak and temporarily quieted the noise around a franchise that had been stumbling in ways that made no sense given the talent on their roster. Here's where the night gets genuinely interesting. Here's the question that the baseball world has been reluctant to ask out loud, even though the data keeps pointing directly at it. Is Shohei Ohtani actually a better pitcher when he doesn't hit? Manager Dave Roberts has been circling this question all season, and on May 13th, he finally stated it as plainly as he ever has. Like I've said for a long time, he's a different person when he's pitching. I think he wants to win the Cy Young. I think that helps the Dodgers too in 2026. When he's pitching, I just sort of let him go. He's in his zone. That quote contains several important things. Roberts isn't just observing that Ohtani pitches well. He's saying something more specific, that Ohtani transforms on pitching days. That there's a mental and physical recalibration that happens when the bat goes away and the baseball comes out. And then Roberts said something that almost no manager of a two-way player has ever said publicly. That Ohtani wants to win the Cy Young award, not just contribute on the mound. Not just hold his own as a pitcher while being primarily valued as a hitter. Win the Cy Young, the award given annually to the best pitcher in each league. The award that Ohtani would be competing for against pitchers who do nothing else for 162 games except train to pitch. Ohtani himself has framed it with characteristic precision. Ideal situation is to be great on both sides of the ball, but if I'm not contributing offensively, then I know I can contribute on the pitching side of things and vice versa. That's the public answer. But the numbers tell a more complicated story. Because what the 2025 season has shown, through 7 starts, is that when Ohtani is freed from his offensive responsibilities, his ERA sits at 0.82. When he's carrying both roles simultaneously, the mental load, the constant switching between hitters' preparation and pitchers' preparation, appears to affect something in his performance, even if it's nearly impossible to measure with traditional statistics. Ohtani had led the National League in ERA after all 7 of his starts in 2025, and had led the majors in ERA after 5 of them, including each of the last 3 consecutive starts. Those numbers are not the product of soft competition or lucky sequencing. They represent consistent, historically unusual pitching dominance across a 7-start sample. And when you pull back further and include his 2024 work with the Dodgers, the picture becomes even more striking. Counting his time on the mound across both seasons with Los Angels, Ohtani now carries a 1.88 ERA across 21 starts and 91 innings as a Dodger. That 1.88 ERA, with a minimum of 90 innings as the qualifying threshold, is the lowest ERA in Dodgers franchise history. Read that again. The man with 2 of the top home run seasons in Dodgers franchise history as a hitter also holds the lowest ERA in Dodgers franchise history as a pitcher. In the same franchise, at the same time, no one in professional baseball history has ever produced those 2 facts simultaneously about themselves. The Cy Young conversation, which Roberts seeded publicly on May 13th, is not a hypothetical or a stretch. If Ohtani maintains a sub-1 ERA through the first quarter of the season, the voters who decide the National League Cy Young Award will have no reasonable basis to ignore him. The only question is whether his durability, his two-way workload, and the natural variance of a long season will allow those numbers to hold. Through 7 starts, there was no evidence that they wouldn't. The win on May 13th stopped the bleeding, but it didn't fix the patient. The Los Angeles Dodgers, despite their talent level, despite the nine-figure contracts, despite the depth of their roster, were sitting in second place in the NL West at 24-17, trailing the San Diego Padres. That record for a team with their payroll and expectations was already a source of significant concern within the organization. And the four-game losing streak that Ohtani's start snapped was only the most recent symptom of a deeper offensive dysfunction. The Dodgers have been averaging 2.9 runs per game in Ohtani's starts. That number needs to go up, not marginally, significantly. Because even Shohei Ohtani cannot maintain a 0.82 ERA forever, and a team that scores 3 or fewer runs in 10 of 13 games is not built to win a World Series on pitching alone. The offensive question has a specific name attached to it, and that name is Ohtani himself. His 2025 slash line of .233363404 is not a disaster. He still carries a 122 WRC+, which means he is producing 22% above league average offensively even in his worst stretch as a Dodger. For any other player on the roster, a 122 WRC+ would be celebrated as an excellent season. For Shohei Ohtani, with his career slugging percentage of .576 and his status as a four-time MVP, it reads as underperformance. Because it is. The roster decision that Dave Roberts now faces is genuinely complicated. Pulling Ohtani from the batting lineup on pitching days appears to improve his ERA and his overall mound performance, but it also removes from the lineup the one player capable of single-handedly changing the offensive environment of a game. The roster that has been averaging fewer than 3 runs in his starts, that's a significant cost. Can the Dodgers sustain the pitching-only Ohtani approach on a long-term basis and still generate enough run production from the rest of the lineup to win games? The answer to that question will likely determine whether this team makes a legitimate World Series run or falls short of expectations for the second consecutive year. After May 13th, the Dodgers had a scheduled rest day on Thursday. Big series against the Los Angeles Angels was coming Friday. A team, a schedule, and a set of unresolved questions that no single pitching performance, even a 7-inning shutout with 8 strikeouts, could fully answer. Let's land on the concrete reality of what Shohei Ohtani did on May 13, 2025, and what it tells us about where he stands as a baseball player right now. He threw 105 pitches in 7 innings against a Giants lineup that came in motivated. He struck out 8 hitters. He allowed 4 hits and 0 earned runs. He pumped 98 to 100 mph velocity deep into the 7th inning without a drop in command. He got into genuine danger in the 7th, runners on first and second, a ball hit at 100.4 mph off the bat, and escaped without a run scoring. And he did all of this while his offensive production had been in the worst slump of his time as a Dodger. In 7 starts in 2025, Ohtani had pitched at least 6 innings each time, the longest such streak of his MLB career. He had recorded 50 strikeouts in 44 innings. He had led the NL in ERA after every single one of his starts, and he had done it while carrying a 1.88 ERA across 91 Dodger innings, the lowest ERA in franchise history at that qualifying threshold. 0.82 ERA, 50 strikeouts. 7 consecutive quality starts. Franchise record ERA, those are not projections or hypotheticals. Those are the numbers that existed as of May 13, 2025. The Cy Young Award conversation is real. Dave Roberts said it. The data supports it. And if the rest of the 2025 season follows the pattern established in the first 44 innings, the National League is going to have to confront the possibility that the best pitcher in baseball right now is the same man who won the home run derby, who signed a $700 million contract, and who on any other night can hit a baseball 500 feet. No one in the history of professional baseball has ever made that sentence necessary. That's the real story of May 13, 2025. Not just a Dodgers win, not just a shutout. A Cy Young campaign unfolding in real time, built on a 0.82 ERA, 50 strikeouts, and the kind of pitching dominance that doesn't have a historical comparison because the player producing it has never existed before. If Shohei Ohtani keeps this up, the question won't be whether he wins the Cy Young. The question will be whether he's the best two-way player in the history of professional sports, and whether the Los Angeles Dodgers built a team good enough around him to make it matter when October arrives. The data says yes on the first question. October will answer the second. We just broke down one of the most statistically extraordinary pitching performances of the 2025 MLB season, a game where Shohei Ohtani silenced a lineup, stopped a 4-game skid, and put his name squarely in the Cy Young conversation. If this kind of real, fact-driven sports breakdown is what you're looking for, then Hoop Action TV is where you need to be. We are 98 subscribers away from hitting 1,500. Subscribe right now, hit the bell so you don't miss a single video, and share this with one person who you know would have something to say about Ohtani's 0.82 ERA. And speaking of having something to say, we want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think Shohei Ohtani can win the National League Cy Young Award while posting a 120-plus WRC+ at the plate in the same season? Because if he does, there is no comparison in baseball history. Drop your take below. This is exactly the kind of conversation this channel was built for. If you enjoy real sports breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next.